Picture this. You're at the grocery store and everything costs 20% more than last year. Your rent went up, gas prices are through the roof, but somehow your company just laid off half your department. Welcome to stagflation, the economic nightmare that sounds impossible but has haunted economies for decades. Most people think inflation and recession can't happen together. Well, stagflation proves that economic reality can be stranger than theory. Today, we'll unpack this puzzling phenomenon that stumped economists in the 1970s and might be making a comeback. Let's dive in. Section 1. What is stagflation? Stagflation is like having the flu and food poisoning at the same time. Two bad things that shouldn't happen together, but somehow do. The word combines stagnation and inflation, and that tells you everything you need to know. In normal economic thinking, inflation and recession are opposites. When the economy's booming, prices rise because people have money to spend. When the economy is struggling, prices should fall because demand is weak. It's like a seesaw. One goes up, the other goes down. But stagflation breaks this rule. It's an economy where prices are rising rapidly while economic growth is stalling and unemployment is climbing. Imagine paying more for everything while having less money to pay with. The classic example is the United States in the 1970s. From 1973 to 1975, inflation averaged over 10% per year, while unemployment rose from 4.9% to 8.5%, and GDP actually shrank. People were literally paying more for groceries while losing their jobs. Before the 1970s, most economists followed the Phillips curve, which suggested you could have high inflation with low unemployment, or low inflation with high unemployment, but not both. Stagflation shattered this assumption. Section 2. What causes this economic paradox? Stagflation doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It requires a perfect storm. There are three main culprits: supply shocks, poor policy decisions, and structural economic problems. First, supply shocks. These are sudden, dramatic increases in the cost of essential inputs. The 1970s stagflation was triggered by oil price shocks. In 1973, Arab oil-producing countries imposed an embargo, and oil prices quadrupled almost overnight. Here's why this created stagflation. Oil is used in nearly everything: transportation, manufacturing, heating. When oil prices skyrocketed, the cost of producing almost everything went up, forcing companies to raise prices, inflation. But higher costs also meant companies had to cut production and lay off workers, recession. It was a double whammy. The second cause is bad monetary policy. Sometimes governments try to stimulate a struggling economy by printing more money. But if the economy's problems are structural rather than cyclical, this extra money just chases the same limited goods, driving up prices without creating real growth. The third cause is structural problems like powerful labor unions that demand wage increases regardless of economic condition. In the 1970s, unions negotiated automatic cost of living adjustments, creating a wage price spiral. Higher prices led to higher wages, which led to higher costs for businesses, which led to higher prices. Modern examples include COVID-19 disrupting supply chains, or Russia's invasion of Ukraine affecting global food and energy supplies, events that make essential goods more expensive while disrupting economic activity. Section 3. Why stagflation is so destructive. Stagflation isn't just an academic curiosity. It's economically devastating because it attacks people from multiple directions simultaneously. For ordinary consumers, stagflation is brutal because it combines the worst aspects of both inflation and recession. Your purchasing power gets crushed by rising prices just when your job security is most threatened. During the 1970s, real wages actually fell for most Americans. A gallon of gas that cost 36 cents in 1972 cost $1.35 by 1981, while unemployment peaked at over 10%. Businesses face an impossible choice. They're dealing with higher input costs due to inflation, which they'd normally pass on to consumers. But with the economy in recession, consumers can't afford higher prices. Companies get squeezed from both sides, higher costs and lower sales. For governments, stagflation creates a policy nightmare. Normally, if you have high inflation, you raise interest rates to cool the economy. If you have a recession, you lower rates to stimulate growth. But stagflation requires fighting both problems simultaneously, and the tools for fighting one often make the other worse. It's like trying to treat someone who's simultaneously dehydrated and drowning. This is why stagflation lasted so long in the 1970s. Policymakers kept switching between fighting inflation and fighting recession, never tackling both effectively. The psychological impact is also devastating. People lose confidence in the economy and government's ability to manage it, creating a vicious cycle where expectations of continued stagflation becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Section 4. Are we heading for stagflation today? With recent inflation spikes and economic uncertainty, many people are asking, are we facing another bout of stagflation? The short answer, it's possible, but not inevitable. Some current conditions echo the 1970s. We've seen supply chain disruptions from COVID-19, energy price volatility due to geopolitical tensions, and central banks that kept monetary policy loose for extended periods. However, there are important differences. Today's labor markets are less unionized and more flexible than in the 1970s, making wage price spirals less likely. Central bank credibility is higher. People generally trust that the Federal Reserve is committed to controlling inflation. Modern economies are also more service-oriented and less dependent on raw materials. The key indicators to watch include persistently high inflation combined with rising unemployment, declining economic growth, and inflation expectations becoming unanchored, meaning people expect high inflation to continue indefinitely. As of 2024, inflation in most developed countries had come down significantly from 2021 to 2022 peaks, and employment remained relatively strong, suggesting we weren't in classic stagflation territory yet. But the risk remains due to geopolitical tensions, climate change impacts, and potential new pandemic variants. Conclusion: stagflation proves that economics isn't always logical. While inflation and recession seem like opposites, they can occur together under the right conditions, creating an economic nightmare worse than either alone. We've seen how supply shocks, policy mistakes, and structural problems can create this perfect storm, and how devastating it can be for consumers, businesses, and governments. The 1970s showed us that stagflation can persist for years when policymakers are confused about how to respond. Today, while we face some similar challenges, we also have better tools, more flexible economies, and hopefully wiser policymakers. The key is recognizing warning signs early and responding appropriately. Understanding stagflation helps you recognize when economic conditions might be shifting dangerously and how to protect yourself financially. Whether it's building emergency funds or understanding policy decisions, knowledge is your best defense against economic uncertainty. If this explanation helped clarify stagflation, please like, subscribe, and share. Let me know in the comments what other economic puzzles you'd like me to tackle next. Thanks for watching Stickonomics 101, where we make economics stick.